What's up, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Thanks for tuning in. Once again, we have a ton of new music to talk about this week. But before we do, let's run through some music news really quick, shall we?
Let's go.
All right. First, American football, as well as Polyvinyl Records and a few others, have purchased the now iconic house seen in the album artwork for their self-titled debut album that came out way back in 99. Not much to say about this. I just wanted to get it out there because it's fucking awesome. And this needs to happen more with like movie houses and album artwork houses. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, man. Isn't that just fucking amazing?
It is. I think it's cool for them, obviously, and it's cool as just a way to preserve history.
Right.
Because I believe they thought the intent was somebody was just going to knock it down and build a condo, which was probably the case.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad we preserved the iconic American football house, and I think they should turn it into an emo museum, man.
That would be fucking awesome.
Like a residential co-op or something, you know?
Second wave only, though.
Only twinkly. Nothing else. If you're not from the Midwest, get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
So what other iconic spots should be preserved?
Well, I really don't have any like right off the top of my head, but just like in terms of the warehouse that all of Reservoir Dogs takes place in was demolished pretty much because nobody knew what it was, when they were demolishing it. So things like that get lost to history just from people not knowing, or fires take things and shit like that. But I think if we know something has a history attached, like the Boy Meets World house, for instance, even though that's an exterior shot only.
Right.
There was rumors recently that house had got torn down, but those people have just built such big walls of trees around it so that you really can't see it anymore.
Well,
which
and then,
I'm sure is just the foot traffic issue.
Right. And then when something gets so popular, look at what happened to, 1502 Negro Arroyo Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Breaking Bad house.
Yeah, people throwing pizzas on the roof.
I mean, they had to build a fucking gate around it. I mean, it's a whole thing, and I think originally the owners were like super cool. Sometimes you'd catch the owners outside on their lawn chairs, and they'd be like happy to talk to you. And probably 4 too many assholes later, we figure out that we can't enjoy things. So
exactly. It just happened up here with the Goonies house. That one is obviously visited a lot, and the previous owner of it was not a fan and went as far as like covering most of the house in blue tarp so that you couldn't even really see it properly. Damn. And it's up a hill, so if you didn't have permission to go up there, you really couldn't. And I think at first she was cool about it, but like you said, a few too many assholes leaving beer butts or cigarette butts and beer cans and all of that shit just pissed her off to where she didn't really want to deal with it unless like you were coming through with obviously a cash offer if you wanted to like film something there or something like that. But I think it's under new ownership now, and they are very cool with people going there. So
nice.
It's cool. Yeah. Moving on, this is going to be huge news for you, I'm sure. Taylor's version of Speak Now will be released on July 7th. What is your reaction to this?
I'm speechless. No, I think we all knew it was coming. I can't.
Yeah, we really did.
I'm sorry, I can't speak now. It's. I think we all knew it was coming. I'm excited to hear the new tracks. She released this like a mock-up of this beautiful, like purple kind of universe, beautiful vinyl record that's going to be released with it. We're not going to get it, but I'm excited for everybody that does,
Are you hoping she does another 10-minute version of a song?
I'm a big fan of 10-minute songs, like as a general
just
rule.
In general, yeah. I know you are.
Whether it be Opeth or Taylor Swift, I'm a big fan of those.
Yes, I know you are. We'll definitely be reviewing that when it drops. And last but not least, Chiodos dropped a limited edition vinyl of All's Well That Ends Well that you and I were both lucky enough to snag a copy of before it sold out. This probably isn't considered news, but we're fucking stoked on it. Shout out to Chiodos for making it only $25 plus shipping.
I've heard a lot of problems about Equal Vision Records, but I gotta shout them out, man. They not only produced this and didn't like let it leak that it was happening. It was just, hey, do you want this? All right, bet we'll fucking ship it real quick, and it got here quickly. There was no issues with it. It's a beautiful looking record. Everything came packaged awesome. I mean, it was top notch not top notch work from Equal Vision Records, and for it to only be $25 was just icing on the cake for me.
Yes, that sold it for me instantly. I believe it's sold out already, but who knows? They might do alternate pressings of different colors and shit going forward. It's cool to have the numbered ones though.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that album. We've talked about that within the last 12 months. So
It's incredible. Anything else you want to talk about before we begin?
as of right now, no.
All right, then let's begin, starting with a new one from Bring Me the Horizon called Lost. I don't know, man. I hate it. I love it. In other words, it's a Bring Me the Horizon song. How are you feeling about it?
Really cool pop punk song, Bring Me the Horizon. I don't know what to fucking expect from this band anymore. It's good, but I hate it.
Yep.
like,
Yep, I think that's the takeaway. All right, moving on. We got a new one from Brooklyn featuring 408 called Stay Toxic. Talk to me about this one.
let's see here. Brooklyn has some ultra poppy pop punk, man. This is good. I'm not sure I really saw the 408 or heard the 408 feature, but I really liked this. So
Yeah, it's a bit like paint by numbers pop punk, but it's
right,
done really well.
yeah.
Moving on, we got a new one from Trophy Eyes called Blue Eyed Boy. Is Yell Sing pop punk its own subgenre yet?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, probably.
I feel like it's getting there. Hot Mulligan feel like they're the kings of it right now, but this was
Right.
really good for something adjacent to that.
Yeah, these synth chords kind of threw me off a little bit for a second, but honestly, I grew to really love them this week.
The same.
And the raspy ass, just yelling vocals, just brought me right back into this track. I really like this one.
I'm here for it. New one from Rancid, Don't Make Me Do It. Are they your song of the week 2 times in a row?
No, not this time. But honestly, it was close, man. I really like it when Rancid leans more into the hardcore.
Sure.
So I think this entire record is going to be really fun.
Yeah, man, they are 2 for 2. I agree. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yep, for sure.
Moving on, we got a new one from Defile the Idol called Black Throne of Death. Talk to me about this one.
I just love the rawness of really super duper underground black metal. This band is from South Africa, and
All
I
right.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude. Even though I'm not like a huge fan of this subgenre, I love seeing emerging acts like this coming up and making a name for themselves quickly. This was really good.
Yeah, and it's funny that all of the newer bands nowadays sound so much better than some of like the like actual like studio work from the from the 80s and the early 90s from black
Yes,
metal.
I know.
I think it's really funny, but it just kind of goes to show how far easily accessible technology has become.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Shit that we used to like covet or that used to be much harder to get is like in your phone now, and it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, man. New one from Black Braid called Moss Covered Bones on the Altar of the Moon. Not my song of the week, but definitely my song title of the week. It's a 13 and a half minute song that's somehow more epic than the appropriate title that they gave it. It's a lot, but it's done extremely well. How are you liking this one?
Yeah, so I listened to I found Black Braid late last year, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to their album. I forget the name of it, but it's Black Braid One. I think is the album cover or album title. They are a Native American black metal solo project. 13-minute long black metal fucking ripper. Let's go, man. This is right up my alley.
Solo metal projects are also a much newer thing to this generation as well.
Right?
Yeah, I don't I can't recall many from the decades previous, but it feels like we've covered a few in the last few years.
Yeah, yeah, we've covered actually like a ton of them. Cosmic Putrefaction, Pharmacist, Black Braid, and that's just off like the top of my head. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
many others.
Moving on, we got a new one from Grave Saddles called Willie Nelson Golfing Dream number 3. How are you enjoying this one?
Emo country gaze, bro. I'm about it. I'm
You
curious to
would
hear
be.
the full project. I'm dying to hear your thoughts.
This one was not for me, man. The singer's doing that Connor Oberst sound like a sheep thing with his voice that I've just never been a huge fan of.
Not big on the
But I'll give the
bleats.
album a shot. I'll give the album a shot if you want to.
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, man. Let's move into some poppy dance music. We got a new one from Chet Faker called Something Like This. As I said, it's upbeat, it's poppy, it's approaching certified bop territory. I don't know if it gets quite there. What do you think?
Yeah, this seems like a lot poppier than a lot of his previous releases. His voice is obviously his voice, and that feels good to kind of hear that back. But this feels like a little bit more commercial. You getting that? It is really
Yeah.
good. I enjoyed it, but I do feel some hey, let me try to get this one on the radio kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, if this was 2008, I could see it being used in one of those iPod commercials with like the silhouettes or
Yes. Do you
it's one
remember
of those.
corded headphones, bro?
Bro, I can't stop remembering. All right, we got a new one from Grammatic called No Place Like NYC. This one's a good track for the first listen or two, but I thought it got a little old pretty fast just because of how repetitive it is. But when it's hitting, it's a good one. What were your thoughts on it?
That's honestly that's kind of most grammatics music. I can't really sit and like for like a long time listen to Grammatic. Funky, bassy, and it's just very much his style of music. I enjoyed it like you said the first time, but I did skip it a couple times on subsequent listens to the playlist.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that if it shuffles on and you're not expecting it, it's good. But if you're anticipating it, I don't think it really lives up.
Nail on the head
Um,
there, sir.
All right, we got a new one from Drove called Until We Meet Again. I've been rooting for whoever is behind this project since it started, but it is still giving me major industry plant vibes. It sounds a little too polished and too generic to be from an up and comer, which I guess is kind of a compliment and an insult. I haven't liked the last few tracks they've put out quite as much as those early EPs. Hopefully the next one hits different. What were your thoughts on this one?
You took the thoughts right out of my brain here, man. Yeah, it is just immaculately produced. Too much so.
Yeah, yeah. We're becoming one person. We're always finishing each
Basically.
other's sandwiches.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but when we disagree, I think we really disagree. So,
yes, we do. We do. All right, let's talk about this Adriatic remix of I Need You by Elderbrook. I imagine you're loving this one.
oh my God, man, this is a beautiful remix of an already beautiful track. I love this combo. They should do like an entire album of collaboration. Their styles blend so well together, and I love how Adriatic just kind of takes the scaffolding of the song and doesn't change much, but what is changed is enough. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, and he's on a fucking roll. The last few remixes of his that we've reviewed have all been outstanding. He's killing
Fire
it right
emoji.
now. Yes, 3 fire emojis, if I may.
Uh,
Uh,
I dare say you may.
Thank you. All right, we got a new one from Pussy Riot Boys Noise and Alice Glass called Chastity. This shit feels like a Stefan sketch from SNL, man. It has everything. Incredible production, searing vocals, multiple languages, and the patriarchy ending line of put it in a dick cage, which is just perfect. How are you liking this one?
I was having the hardest time with this track's lyrics. I thought it said something wild, and after stiff consideration, I determined that it does indeed say "put it in a dick cage." This
Oh, it does.
better be
It's
played.
subtitled in the video, I believe.
This better be played at Burgine, man. I swear to God.
God damn, yes, it better be. Loving this one. Next up, we got a new one from Keys and Crates called Say You Love Me. It's not the flashiest song on the playlist this week, but it works. How are you feeling about it?
This is kind of like a really straightforward house track for Keys and Crates. Normally they do like trappy stuff, and I mean it's good. It didn't blow me away or anything. I do prefer the trappy Keys and Crates. So
I do as well, but this one had a nice groove to it.
It did.
Moving on, we got a new one from Rodriguez Jr., Lizette Aaliyah, and RJLA called Visions. We've already known that everything Rodriguez Jr. touches just turns to fucking gold, but these last few releases are putting him into that upper echelon of artists in the genre. This is expert level stuff. What are your thoughts on it?
And we've come to my song of the week.
Nice.
Literally every track that Rodriguez Jr. and Lizette touches together is just it's out of this world, man. What was that, like a bass bell VST or something like that? Like, holy shit, man!
If it isn't, it should be.
Whatever this is, I love it. Inject it directly into my veins.
Yeah, this one was fantastic, man. Moving on, we got an Eagles and Butterflies remix of a Bob Moses song. Big surprise. I feel like we've covered like 5 Eagles and Butterflies remixes of Bob Moses songs, but I could be wrong. This is a remix of Love Brand New. It's good, but you really can't improve on the original because it's perfect. Do you enjoy this one? I know you're a big fan of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of both of these artists. Eagles and Butterflies had some large shoes to fill after they remixed Enough to Believe off of Battle Lines. I think what they did what they could with this track, and I think it's fucking great. I just wish that it was a little longer. If it was like 10 minutes, like the last time they remixed a Bob Moses track, I would have absolutely fucking loved it. But alas, it was only like, what, 3 minutes? 4 minutes?
Yes.
Whatever.
I agree. Could have always used the extended mix.
Always.
Got a new one from Opio and Ashes called Bash Plate. You enjoying this one?
Hey man, this was actually the runner-up for my song of the week. Holy fucking shit.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
This track fucks, bro. It's one of the best bass tracks I've heard in a long time. I find it wild that Opio only has like 200,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. He and his band just consistently puts out massive tunes and fantastic shows. So,
Opio is Caribou, right?
No.
Who?
Caribou is Daphne.
That's right. Defini or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was mixing them up. Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty criminally underrated. I thought it was an alias for some reason.
No.
Yeah, this is good, man. Really fun hearing Opio collaborate on something a little heavier.
Yeah, this was really neat, man. When this played for the first time, I was in the car and I was like, "Whoa!" Like,
Yes, sir.
pretty good. Pretty good.
All right, to cap this week's singles off, we got a new one from Josh Wink and Automatic Journeys. Look, man, you don't need to reinvent the wheel if you helped invent the wheel, right? It's a bit primitive by today's standards, but I found it to be a fun listen. What about you?
The legend himself has dropped this Autonomic Journeys track. Sasha and John Digweed closed their Coachella set with Josh Wink's Higher Consciousness, which admittedly Josh has been milking for 20 years.
As is tradition.
For good reason. This is obviously not the best track he's ever put out, but it's a great house track. It's probably going to be used in many an intro to a 3-hour set. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, as it should be.
Right.
As it should be. Only one EP this week. It's from Ryan James Ford. It's called Ripping. If you walk into a club and you hear any of these songs playing, you're in for a great night of dance music. Just remember to stay hydrated. How are you enjoying this one?
So we reviewed Ripping Greg's mic mix last week, and I didn't know it was going to be an EP. If I did, I probably would have just reserved all of it for this week. But this was self-released by Ryan James Ford. No label on this. Just a club killer, bro. It sounds best when like surrounded by concrete. I tested this, and I'm sure I'm sure it'll just be going off at any set he plays this year. Soft boiled is anything but soft. Coming in at just under 140 BPM. This whole EP just fucking bangs, man. I usually like things around 128 to 132, but man, this guy has a way with his productions that just works for this beats per minute. I'm glad you liked it. I'm not sure if you liked it as much as I did, but I fucking loved this EP, man.
Oh, I enjoyed it enough to revisit later for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the albums this week. We have a lot, starting with Armani White's Road to Casablanca. Look, man, the album cuts on this one are really good, but it's that 3-song run of Goated, Silvertooth, and Billie Eilish that makes this project what it is for me. Yep. I've had those 3 songs on repeat all week, and I plan to have them on repeat for the rest of the year. That's actually my song of the week, is those three songs together.
Fair, fair.
He rolls an R in the word put, which, as you may know, doesn't even have an R in it. Like, that's fucking talent, man.
Depends on who you ask.
Outside of those three tracks, though, I really enjoyed Big Bet with Fivio,
Yep.
Fivio, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and that posse cut of Legends over Billie Eilish to end the album. I'm giving this one an 8. I loved it. What about you?
Yeah, man, I really like this. Coming in at just 24 minutes long, this is the perfect pregame album. I just love how fun this record is. There's no deep meaning. There's no one taking themselves too seriously, and that does not work for a lot of artists, at least for me. But here it really works. All of the features play into their talents, and Armani clearly just wanted to have some fun here. That's apparent. I love the Busta and the Ludaverse on the Legends mix of Billie Eilish.
So good. So good.
I really enjoyed this album, man. I'm going to give it a 7. My standout was that Legends mix. Although you are right that that three song run is goated, if I may.
I'm shocked you didn't pick the Curry feature as your favorite song.
It's good, but man,
the old head in you wins over everything.
And honestly, bro, that Billie Eilish beat is just fucking infectious, man.
Dude, it's so good. And the hook, the big t-shirt. God damn, it's so good. Love it. Great job, Armani. Moving on, we got a new one from Fred again and Brian Eno called Secret Life. Hit me with your thoughts, man.
All right. John, what makes ambient music good? This is a rhetorical question.
I am not the person to ask.
You don't need to answer this, but I did find myself contemplating this as the album ended. I can't quite say what makes ambient good, but I can absolutely say that this album is good. It's got textures layered on top of vocals, on top of instrumentation that kind of like really evoked emotion in me. Not any specific emotion, just emotions. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. I've been a Brian Eno fan for a while now. The record store owner down the street knows me as the Eno guy. He saves any that he gets for me to buy or pass on before he puts them on the shelf. I was actually just prepared for another Eno album here, but it does feel collaborative. And I'm glad Fred is doing this after his massive success with Skrill and Fortet. That being said, we should probably address the elephant in the room. Fred, again, being Eno's godson, means that he probably got networking opportunities and mentorship from a pioneer and a greatest of all time in the music world. That does put him with a leg up in the industry, but we cannot deny this guy's talent. I have seen the dude work a machine like no other, and he makes a ton of music that I really do enjoy. It's hard to review an ambient album, but I can say with full confidence for me that this is good. I'll be coming back to it when I get in an Eno mood, although Music for Airports and Another Green World, those are my go-to records for Brian Eno. I gave it a 7. The standout, I don't really have a standout. It's like a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an entire
I don't have a standout
thing.
either.
There's really no way to do it. The number that I put against the number 10 is also arbitrary. Like there's no way to really do that. You know,
Yes.
So what did you think about it? Did you put any words to paper on this one?
I did, and mine were a little bit different than yours. So I'd be lying if I said I loved it or even really enjoyed it. I can see the beauty in it, but it's just too ambient for my taste. Like, I'm happy to hear Brian again. I'm happy Fred got to work with his godfather, one of his heroes, and I'm happy Fortet got to release this album on his label. But that's kind of where my personal appreciation for this project ends. I wouldn't go as far as to put out a video of myself sleeping to this as a review. Shout out Fantano. But honestly, it's not that far off from me. I'm going to give this one a 5 based on personal taste. And no, I don't have a standout for it. But I had a feeling I wouldn't enjoy this one quite as much. And it is what it is from the beginning. Like, this isn't an album that is inconsistent. I'll give it that. If you enjoy,
Correct.
I think, one of these, you'll enjoy all of these. And if you don't, you won't. And I just kind of fell into the don't camp.
Well, I think it's funny, man. I think I enjoy obviously extremely fast music. I enjoy extremely heavy music, but almost every time we review like a slower ballad heavy R&B album, it's too slow for me. But yet, I like the extreme end of the ambient kind of stuff, you know? And it's the opposite end of anything you could call extreme, but that's kind of an extreme on the spectrum of soft and heavy.
Yeah.
So I think
This is a pretty extreme ambient.
It most definitely is. It is a Brian Eno ambient album featuring his godson Fred again. Like I knew that it was going to be something like this going in, but you can really hear the Fred influences, and I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised that happened. I was actually surprised that you gave it a 5 in and of itself. I had the gorilla pissing in its own mouth video ready to go so we could link it up in our show notes.
No, it's not like that, man. Like, I don't hate
I'm just
ambient
kidding.
music. I mean, I'm glad you have that just on hand ready to go whenever.
At all times.
Like, I think my limits of ambient are like Tycho and Explosions in the Sky, which I think are slightly more melodic than this.
I wouldn't even consider either of those really ambient. So
Okay, then like that's as close to ambient as I typically get, I think. So yeah.
That's Festival Yoga Center at the campground.
Love
Ambient.
it.
Yeah,
that is
big
me
fan.
to
Big fan
a
of that.
fucking T. And yes, I can confirm you are the Eno guy because I remember going to that record store in Portland and quickly texting you a video of all the Eno that I found.
Oh, man.
I think that's awesome when you become well enough known for liking something that anybody that sees that thing associates it with you and texts you it. It's great.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think it's cool. I think I have enough Eno in my collection now, and I kind of told them that last time, and then we had that whole conversation. I think I texted you a screenshot of it. I went in asking for Discord record stuff, like old stuff, and he goes, "Ha, you're cute." That shit doesn't come around that often. And then that day he was able to purchase some and texted me, and he was like, "Yo, come get them if you want it." And I got a couple of Fugazi records, which was really fucking cool. So.
That's fucking awesome. All right, let's move on to this new one from Subtract called The Rat Road. Based on the singles, I thought this one had the potential to be really special, and I do think it has its moments. But there's a lack of cohesion holding those special moments together for me, starting with the positive. Every song that Leela is on, No Intention, Forward, Drift could all be my standout. The contributions from Toro y Moi and Sampha are all incredible as well. The production he's giving them to sing over is impeccably crafted and often beautiful, but some tighter sequencing and a few less intros and interludes could have taken this album into that 9 or 10 range for me. I feel like the record has a lot of starts and stops near the beginning, preventing it from finding its groove, and I could have used at least one fewer Tizo touchdown track, I think, but the inclusion of the Little Dragon feature at the end as the final track really ended the album on a satisfying note for me and left me wanting to dive back in. For now, though, I'm giving this one like a strong 7 to a light 8. My standout is No Intention. How did you feel about his new project?
Oh, right. Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I will say that I do think that this record does need to be listened to with like decent headphones or decent speakers because it kind of like separates the mids, the highs, and the lows properly, so you can kind of hear it. Look, man, Subtract is one of those bands.
What's your human review of it, Brandon?
Subtract is one of those groups that I like really want to like, and most of the singles that are released are like really good, but the album cuts seem to like not really work completely for me. Again, I really want to like this, and I do for the most part. There's just either too much happening or not enough happening. I don't know how to say that. I say it needs to be listened to on good speakers because the low end seems to be really muddy. Seems to like really muddy the highs on crappy speakers, even like my car speakers, which are admittedly they're Kia. It's a Kia, so it's crappy.
Yes.
But when separated as meant to be, the music does seem to take on new life. Some of it seems like it's just random to be random sort of music. The song structures are a little weird. I feel like some of the synths, some of the chains clanging samples and random kind of bleep boops that kind of like get added last minute, like the last minute items, because they don't really work for the majority of it, which is how I feel when I go to revisit albums like Subtract's 2011 self-titled. If those elements weren't in play, it wouldn't detract so much from the music, for me at least. Those elements kind of make the music like mildly unsettling, and that may even very well may even be like the point, right? There are parts of every one of these tracks that I really like. Like, there's not a track on this record that I didn't have a part in it that I liked. But it's almost like it's trying to be poppy and avant-garde at the same time, which doesn't really work for my ears. My standouts here are LFO. I liked the last half of LFO and the first half of Limitless. I'm gonna give it somewhere between a 4 and a 5. I'm not sure that
Okay.
I'll be revisiting it this year, but I'm really glad that you liked it a little more than I did, because honestly, like the singles, like you said, were fucking great. And it just kind of threw me off when I heard the rest of the album, and I was like, oh, again with Subtract. So we'll see.
So it should be said this album is 22 songs, 51 minutes, and it's his first album since 2016. He originally whittled this down from a list of 400 songs that he has made in that time. So
Who is he, Mac DeMarco or something?
yeah, just release them all, pussy. I think what we're hearing is a little bit of overthinking it, or maybe not focus group testing it in like the way that we traditionally think of it, but maybe it's like every time he got a positive reaction from somebody close to him, he was like, all right, that song's making the album, without much thought of, do these songs all go together?
Bro, it's got to be so hard to cut songs that you've made from a project that you've been working on for years. Like, God, that emotional connection to a piece of art that you create must be painstaking. Like, I'm going to be real. We talk about it kind of nonchalantly, like, this one should have been cut. But in reality, it's like, you want to cut a piece of my heart out, bro? You know?
Yeah, they would have had to have thrown me off a bridge to get me to cut Dogtooth from Call Me If You Get Lost.
Right.
Like, I don't know how Tyler did that, but honestly, I will be revisiting this one, probably not for a few months. I'll let you know if I think that time away from it helps at all.
Let me know when you revisit it, and I'll do the same thing. Maybe it's
I
a mood
will. I
thing.
will. All right, man, let's talk about this new Currents album, The Death We Seek. I believe we reviewed the title track for it. What are your thoughts after hearing it in full?
Alrighty. Disclaimer. These are just my opinions. Okay, so
Oh boy.
I stopped following the metalcore scene really closely in 2010. Like, I still listened to the bands that I liked and stuff, but I didn't like actively look for more new metalcore past 2011-ish. I got really into EDM and like LSD and stuff. But that being said, I missed the initial hype of Currents when they came onto the scene in 2013. I have obviously heard their music over the years, and we have obviously covered a couple of their tracks. I never really got the hype, but I was aware of the hype. I get that metalcore has a formula. I get that. Strict rigidity to adherence of this formula makes, in my opinion, most of Currents music feel static. I was going to say stale. The stale was the first word that came to mind, but I feel like static feels like a better descriptor because the music itself is good. It's well produced. I know a couple of people, or a ton of people, had problems with the mix on this one, but I actually really like it. It's well performed. Obviously, the guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals all have their place and are done excellently. The problem I'm coming into is that there's no dynamics. There's zero curveballs. From song to song, you know exactly what you're getting. In your face verses, sung choruses, chugging kind of genty riffs, a breakdown somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes into the track, a bridge, and another chorus. I I, I personally don't think that metalcore is stagnating, but I do think that this album just is not very dynamic. We've had some great metal and core adjacent releases this year, so it's really hard for me to hold this up on a pedestal like the majority of the metalcore community is doing. I've heard talk about album of the year, and I've heard a lot of people agreeing with that chatter. And look, man, I've spent some time with this album this week. I've listened to it on a number of different speakers and headphones, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to be coming back to it very often. Maybe not even at all. I think that there are always going to be bands like Foo Fighters who do their things very well, but kind of come off generic, right? And I think that Currents is kind of going that way. I think they'll find a lot of success with this album and subsequent tour, but I think that people who aren't fans of theirs aren't going to change their minds, and people that are fans of theirs will love it. I'm somewhere in the middle, not being a huge fan of theirs because I missed the hype initially, and that's kind of why my rating is right in the middle of the road. I'm going to give this album a 5. My standout is Vengeance, because that is a very good song.
The Foo Fighters of metalcore.
Fucking somebody disagree with me, because It's
Oh
kind of is
god.
right there, right?
Oh god. I don't fully disagree with you, man. I agree with you that this is an album full of formulaic metalcore. I've said from time to time that I'm a fan of that. But after hearing like the newest albums from August Burns Red, Under Oath, The Devil Wears Prada, and Norma Jean, this one just
Right?
doesn't quite measure up, which I think is what you were saying as well. That isn't to say I didn't enjoy moments on the album either. Just because I know the formula doesn't mean I don't enjoy the content it produces. That should be noted because I gave this a more positive score. I gave it a 6. My standout is The Death We Seek. I didn't dislike it quite as much as you. I don't know if I'll be returning to it, but I don't think it was a bad album by any means.
There's just no way to hold this up to the August Burns Red album from this year and be like way better. There's just
Which
no
is an
fucking
album
way.
of the year contender, by the way.
For the most certainly, bro. And then even when you hold it up to like older pioneers of the early 2000s like Ocean's 8 Alaska, where they put out an album last year that was astonishing, as well as like Becoming the Archetype last year. Like so
Mhm.
many good metalcore has been released, and I don't think that the genre itself is stagnating. I do think that as metalcore becomes more popular, there needs to be bands to fill the pop metalcore shoes, and I think Currents is doing that very well. It just might not be for me.
Hey, I agree. I don't think it's for me either, but I would probably review another album of theirs.
Most
So,
definitely, I'm not going to stop
yeah.
listening to them. I'm going to listen to it, and if people disagree with me, then that's fantastic. That's why music is subjective. It is art, after all.
Hey, you put a disclaimer out there.
I did. It was the first thing I said for a reason.
All right, man. Let's move on to this one from Therapy called Hard Cold Fire. Tell me your thoughts on it.
Here we have a 31-minute 16th album from Therapy. I have only
Yes.
just recently heard about these guys, so I have almost no context going into this album. This album is pure 90s grunge alternative to me. They seem to, like the Afghan Wigs, not really stray from the thing that they like. This works on a variety of levels, mainly the energy that they seem to keep throughout this album. There is tons of energy here. Woe is just really anthemic. Look, man, the album is very 90s, and I'm going to be diving into their discography. They've got a bunch of punk influences here and there, grunge influences, even like some early late 90s new metal influences on a couple of those riffs. Tons of things I like,
Hmm.
not a lot that I don't like. I'm going to give this one somewhere between a 6 and a 7. My standout is either Mongrel or They Shoot the Terrible Master, which both tracks are really good on this album.
We'll agree with that. I enjoyed the singles for this one a lot more than I enjoyed the full album. It has its
Fair.
moments, but as a whole, I don't think it was for me. Feels like a throwback to simpler times in grunge rock, which is both good and bad as far as I'm concerned. For a band that's been around as long as they have, they still sound great, but the grunge rock scene has kind of caught up and passed them by. I personally have this one at a 5. My standout is also They Shoot the Terrible Master because that song is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Moving on, we got a new one from Battle Tapes called Texture. And part of me is finally happy to just get this so I don't have to worry about sorting the damn singles anymore and figuring out what genre this band is. But that aside, man, it delivers a lot more of the dance rock that we heard on the singles leading up to this release. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of this sound, but I could see throwing this on with some like Foles or something and having a good time. I'm gonna give this one a 6. My standout is Brand New. What did you think of it?
Texture is right, man. It's not like electro rock hasn't been done ever been done before, because obviously it has. But I think they really
Well,
hit a
you're a
sweet
scientist,
spot
yeah.
between danceability and song structure. It's not electro. There's very little house elements to it. There's no build up drop formula. It's not rock, but but it is more rock than electro sort of thing, with like
Hmm.
the synthy elements that create the texture that this album title is going on and on about. I really enjoyed this album, but it is a lot of the same. I also gave it a 6. I think I don't know, man, Paris the Thought, maybe In Too Deep. Both of those tracks are really good.
This isn't Sum 41. RIP, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I know. If anybody has not seen Sum 41, they are going to do a double album and a final tour. Go see them. They are fucking great.
I love how a Battle Tapes review turned into a Sum 41 memorial
We
slash
got
pitch to go
we got
see
to get it
live.
out of the way.
Yes, we had to. All right. Let's move on to this new one from Unearth called The Wretched and the Ruinous. You enjoying this one?
Oh boy, I've been listening to Unearth since the Oncoming Storm era, 2003, I believe. Just hearing or reading the word zombie autopilot just puts the riff right into my fucking brain. It's one of the most quintessential metalcore tracks on one of the most quintessential metalcore records of all time. This is the 10th studio album from Unearth, with a career spanning well over 2 decades. You would be right to think that they've got their formula down. However, this album is anything but formulaic. It's got some of the best vocal variation I've heard in an Unearth project. We've got the trademark melodic scales that they're so good at doing. We've got the crushing breakdowns. We've got the varied song structures. And we also get is one of the heaviest Unearth albums I've heard to date. There's an air of like rage on this record that doesn't really relent until we get to that like interlude, which I kind of miss in metal records. The Naira, the interlude track here. It's much needed. It's a much needed respite before returning to just the pummeling and melodic into the abyss.
Yes.
I had a ton of fun listening to this album. There's fan service from older records. There's new shit. There's experimentation. There's like massive growth in all of the band members and maturity, as well as like rage and chaos. It is exactly what an Unearthed album should be. It is exactly as dynamic as I think a metalcore album should be. It's a classic move for them to end the album with just a breakdown into a fucking guitar solo. I'm going to give this one, it's somewhere between an 8 and a 9 for me, man. This is a really good one. Dawn of the
Okay.
Militant or Theaters of War are my favorites.
I wouldn't disagree with any of that, man. There was not a lot of mystery with this one. We knew exactly what we were going to get from the singles, and I
Yep.
could not be happier that that turned out to be the case. This one doesn't get much better for me than the intro track, but it is a fun listen from front to back. I have this one a little below you at a 7. My standout is The Wretched and the Ruinous. I've been huge on that one since we reviewed it as a single,
It's a good one.
and I remain stuck on it. It's great.
Every once in a while, I'm like, all week I've been walking around and just the hero, you know, just like yes, man,
God damn it. So
hard
fucking
man. It's
awesome.
just so good, man.
All right, let's cap this week's albums off with a new one from Jeromes Dream called The Gray in Between. This was kind of a surprise addition from you. Talk to me about it.
So, Jerome's Dream is hardcore slash emo core. What are the kids calling it nowadays? Scrams. Have you seen this
Kids?
term? Have you seen this term? Scrams.
No.
Skramz. It is the stupidest fucking term for a genre I've ever heard in my entire life, but people say it unironically like it's a good thing. They've been doing their thing since 2000. Was when Jerome's Dream first released their first had a release. I remember listening to them way back in the day, and then subsequently forgot about them. Earlier last week, I heard that they might be dropping a new project, and went and looked back, and they have been for the last couple of years. I think they dropped one in 2019, which was their first one since for 16 years or something like that, which is really cool.
Okay.
And they brought back the screaming. Look, man, I really like this one. It kind of brought me back to like really old school Norma Jean,
Yup.
where you've got this kind of exigent passion that's just screaming from every single instrument in the band, and you've got this kind of like you almost can like feel like it was all recorded in the same room as opposed to different tracks by different band members. You know what I'm saying? Like you feel like you're in the Denny's
Has a very
while they're
live
recording.
feel to it, yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I really like this one, man. I'm gonna give it somewhere to 7. I think it's a 7 is a good score. I didn't write my notes down, so that's why I'm kind of saying I think. And I kept coming back to Often Oceans at just under 2 minutes. It's a fucking awesome track.
Dude, I agree. They sound like a slightly more hardcore version of like He Is Legend or Every Time I Die.
There you go.
I was only able to get to this one once or twice this week just based on limited amount of time, but I really liked what I heard and will definitely be revisiting it. I have this one at a 7 as well. My standout is Conversations in Time on Mute.
It's a good one.
Really enjoyed this one though.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's a great intro track.
That does it for this week's episode. Tune in next week as we will be breaking down a ton of fucking albums, including 2 new ones from the Acacia Strain, Allison Goldfrapp, Cattle Decapitation, Hot Mulligan, LPGOB, Sub Focus, and God only knows what else. I think Arizona's dropping an album, Devil
Dear God,
Driver, Veil of Maya. I have like 2 hip hop albums I'm still waiting to share that I didn't get to add yet.
dear
It's going to
God.
be one of our biggest episodes of the year so far. You won't want to miss it. Let us know in the comments what you're looking forward to. If you liked this episode, make sure you're following along wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up. If you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us a nice review. If you want to find more Brandon's Face content, you can find us on Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. And last but not least, follow along with our official playlist so you'll know what we'll be covering each week. It's refreshed weekly, sorted by genre. You can find the link to that in the show notes. Until next time, peace.
Peace.